Welcome to Tiger Claw TV. Today we're going to be looking at a PlayStation game from 1998 called Deathtrap Dungeon. This time around I'm joined by fellow RW Force members Rask and the Half-Blind Gamer. So Rask, have you ever come across this game?
Deathtrap Dungeon. Let me look that one up.
No, don't look it up. Just play.
You're on your own.
Okay. Seb, what about you? What do you think about Deathtrap Dungeon?
What? Are you kidding me, man? Out of all the games you could have chosen for our first RW Force special, you had to go with Deathtrap Dungeon. Well, no way, man. You know, I play a lot of crap here, but I'm still not going to play that game. You're on your own, man. Now where's that cat for game?
Well, I guess I'm on my own. Deathtrap Dungeon was a game from IDOS that came out for the PC and PlayStation while they were still going through a phase where they were trying to replicate their success with Tomb Raider. This particular title had TV ads that were enough to get my older brother and I actually really excited about it. It wasn't a horrible game, but I didn't really think it had any enduring qualities, and at a time when 3D wasn't perfected and every franchise had to be 3D, it got swept under the rug, and perhaps rightly so. However, I have a personal grudge against this game. As the story goes, back in 1998 I picked up a copy of Mario Paint for the SNES, about a used because it was already pretty old at that time, but it came complete with the mouse and gray plastic pad that originally came packaged with the game. I was happy. And then my older brother saw a TV commercial for a brand new game for the PlayStation that immediately had him hooked. He came down to where I was enjoying a Mario Paint fly swatting game and told me all about it. The next day I saw the same ad and it was a game we had to have. I wanted this game so bad, in fact, my older brother convinced me to sell my newly acquired copy of Mario Paint. Now, as horrible as it sounds to sell such a classic for such a turkey, when talking about Deathtrap Dungeon, there's one thing I can never take from that game. At an old CGI full-motion video intro that, for its time, was awesome. And as a whole, at least, again for the time, the game was, for better or for worse, presented really well. As far as the game itself goes, it's all downhill from there. At the start of the game, you can select two characters, a guy hero and a girl hero. The controls were horrible. It's been said that the game has a really strong learning curve, but all too often when playing this game, I'd end up searching frantically for the button to do the proper action, and I'd never quite be able to find it in time. It slightly resembled the tank-style controls of the Resident Evil games, but the environments were fully CG, as opposed to Resident Evil's sprite on still image method. And speaking of the graphics, the camera was horrible, yes, but the graphics as a whole are a huge plus for the game. The feeling of the game is very dark, and much of the level design feels wide open. The fact that the PS1 could only show you so far ahead of your character made the caves just seem dimly lit and creepy. This amplified by a lack of music and ultra creepy sound effects. The game is creepy enough, and it sells itself as a mixture of Dungeons & Dragons and Tomb Raider, along with a few shameless magazine ads. But the broken controls make it nearly impossible to get into this game for any length of time. Getting back to the old days when my brother and I first bought the game, my big bro had patience of solid marble, and when he wanted to beat a game in those days, nothing would shake him. He put immeasurable amount of time into Deathtrap Dungeon, and it gave me the opportunity to see further in this game than I could ever play. We discovered that, for what it's worth, this game is huge. I'll give it that. Well, the graphics and sound only get creepier as the game goes on, and it includes a circus of death, among other things. But as the monsters get more difficult, combat just gets boring. You sit in front of the monster with the block key pressed while you wait for your narrow opportunity to get a hit in. Strong monsters end up sitting in front of you several minutes before you can finally knock them out. Like I said, my bro had patience in those days. Me, I couldn't even stand to watch at that point, let alone slug it out. What I didn't know about the game until much later is that Deathtrap Dungeon is a video game adaptation of a role-playing game book called Deathtrap Dungeon, written by none other than Ian Livingstone. Hence, Ian Livingstone's Deathtrap Dungeon. The book, released in 1984, followed a story identical to the video game. It was a bit more complicated, however, than the choose-your-own-adventure game books of the time. In 2002, the book was reprinted by Wizard Books. I have read that the overly complicated rules are misprinted, making that printing of the book unplayable. Just a footnote if anybody decides to hunt it down. To sum it all up, Deathtrap Dungeon isn't bad or good. It's just terribly middle of the road. It plays like a testament to late 90s game design, and it suffers from a lot of the common problems of that era with little of the redeeming qualities. Ironically, if they remade it, I bet we'd be in for an awesome game. Why remake a game that was horrible? I bought my copy disc only for $3, and I have to admit that going back and playing it again to make this video, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Just do yourself a favor. Don't sell Mario Paint for it, because you'll be sorely disappointed. This is Critical Failure for Tiger Claw TV, signing off.